guys, it's ASBYT and welcome back to a brand new video. Now last year, the Xiaomi Mi A2, part of the Android One program running stock Android, was one of the best budget smartphones. Well, we've got some great news because the successor to the Mi A2 is launching today, the Mi A2, and I've got all the information right here, so let's get straight to it. Hi guys, like I said, welcome back to a brand new video. Now the Xiaomi Mi A2, like I mentioned, was one of the best budget smartphones of last year. I reviewed it and gave it some really positive feedback, especially when we're looking at the price point. But we're going to jump to the Mi A2 because that is launching today and it's just going to build on what we saw with the Mi A2. Now just to clarify, because Xiaomi produce thousands of phones a month that are all very similar, and it's something that, in my opinion, they need to stop doing. It clouds the market, it confuses the consumer, and it must eat into their own profits. It doesn't make any sense as far as I'm concerned, but hey, they're doing pretty well for themselves. So basically what the Mi A2 will be is exactly the same phone pretty much as the Mi 6X, which was released about 6 weeks, 2 months ago. The only difference is it will run stock Android as part of the Android One program, which was created to try and bring really good smartphones at a cheaper price to countries where top flagship devices aren't necessarily always available and affordable. So instead of the MIUI, which the 6X runs, it's going to run stock Android. So it means you're going to get faster updates than you will on the 6X. So you're going to get Android P very, very soon. And in many people's opinions, a better operating system because it's stock Android and it's all the main features that you would see on, say, the Google Pixel. Many people were a massive fan of the Mi A2 because of this reason. And when you look at it, it's the best of both worlds. The hardware's made by Xiaomi, which they produce some really good phones, and the software is made by Google. You can't really complain at that. So we're going to quickly talk about the design and then we're going to jump onto specs. Now, first thing to note, there are going to be two different versions of the Mi A2. Not variants, we'll get to that. Two complete different versions, the Mi A2 and the Mi A2 Lite. And there are two main differences. First, in terms of the design, and then in terms of specs. In terms of design, the Mi A2 will feature an 18:9 ratioed screen, very similar to the Mi A2 last year, but of course, we will shrink the bezels because that was one of my main criticisms of the Mi A2. It felt very dated in its design. The build quality was great with metal and glass, and we'll get that again on the Mi A2. Corning Gorilla Glass 3, which isn't the best. Gorilla Glass 5 is, but again, when you look at the price point of the Mi A2, which we'll get to very shortly, there will be compromises. It's just not quite as good as the top flagships of Gorilla Glass 5. The only difference outside of the 18:9 ratio is the camera placement on the back, which is now vertical and off to the left, very much like the Mi 8, their flagship, and not horizontal like on last year's model. Whereas the Lite variant of the Mi A2 is going to have a notch. So we don't have any notch on the original, we will have a notch on the Lite version. So there is actually technically more screen on the Lite version. Well, it's a bigger screen to body ratio because the actual two screens on the Mi A2 is a 5.99 inch display, whereas on the Lite version it's a 5.84 inch display. So the Lite version is a smaller phone in the hand as well. It's whether you want a notch or not. It looks very similar to the U.S.A Z2, which I reviewed last week. 2160 by 1080 on the Mi A2 and 2280 by 1080 on the Lite version. So it's full HD plus on both. And this will be an IPS panel. And both of them will be running stock Android 8.1. And as I've said, because the software is made by Google, as soon as Android P is available, you will be seeing the rollout to these devices as soon as possible. And a lot faster than a lot of other devices. Now, the difference in specs between the Mi A2 and the Mi A2 Lite, the normal A2 will run using a Snapdragon 660, which is the best 600 from Snapdragon and offers pretty much top flagship performance, but for the sort of mudget? That's a mix of mid-range and budget. Mudget. For the mudget rangers. For the cheaper devices, you are still getting fantastic performance, and the Mi A2 has it. The Lite version is running a Snapdragon 625, which although is still pretty good, it's not quite as good, and it's actually the same that's used in the Mi A2. There are differences in camera as well. The normal Mi A2 has a 12 megapixel and a 20 megapixel dual rear camera and a 20 megapixel front camera as well, whereas the Lite version has a 12 megapixel and a 5 megapixel and a 5 megapixel front facing camera as well. And the camera camera on the original Mi A2 will be using a Sony IMX376. The normal A2 also has AI features and will apparently be much better in low light. Obviously, until I get my hands on it, I can't verify whether it is indeed better in low light, but that is what they're saying. And basically what's going to happen when you're taking a photo is that it's going to switch between the two different cameras on the rear, depending on the level of light there is. So the 12 megapixel camera shoots better in daytime, whereas as soon as you go into low light situations, it will switch into the 20 megapixel camera and you will get better low light performance because of that. The only other main difference is actually in battery, and this is where, surprisingly, the better battery comes for the Lite variant. It comes with 4 gigabytes. It definitely doesn't. That's not battery. It comes with 4,000 mAh battery capacity, whereas the normal A2 comes with 3,010 mAh. And that's a little bit surprising for me because you'd think that the more expensive product would have a better battery. However, the Snapdragon 660 will probably optimize the battery performance better than the Snapdragon 625, so you might see a slightly more even performance than it would suggest on paper. So they are the core differences. Now we're going to jump onto the rest of the specs for the standard Mi A2. Two different variants. One will have 4 gigabytes of RAM and 64 gigabytes of storage. The other one will have 6 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gigabytes of storage. Now this is actually currently on sale right now, so if you are interested in getting one of the best prices, go to the video description below. I will leave the two variants of the original A2. I will also leave the Mi A2 Lite link in the description below as well. And obviously if you click on those links, it has all the information regarding the two different phones. So if there is anything that I have missed, it will tell you on there. And just to give you a heads up, in terms of price, for, in my opinion, two phones that will be for sure some of the best new budget smartphones as of right now. The original Mi A2 starts from £224. Conversions popping up on your screen here. Obviously this won't transfer, phones don't do that, so you will have to check in your specific region, but roughly it's going to be approximate £224. And the Lite version is 170. So for two incredible smartphone products as of right now, that, in my opinion, is very good value for money. So that's pretty much all the information. Like I said, I will leave the link to the product in the video description below. It is going to sell like hotcakes, and as a result, you may have to wait a little bit in order to then place an order. So if you are interested, then I would advise trying to do it as quick as possible. But also, you may want to wait and see some unboxings and reviews as well. And of course, I will be bringing those videos. I am going to be getting my hands on both the original A2 and the A2 Lite as well very soon to unbox and review for you guys. So if you are interested in that, make sure you are subscribed to the channel and you've turned on the notifications so that when I post those videos, you are notified. This is where you guys come in. Let me know in the comment section below whether you indeed agree with me that it is going to be one of the best new budget smartphones of this year, or whether you don't and the reasons why. And also let me know for the price whether you do indeed think this is good value for money, or whether there's another phone out there of a similar sort of price that's better. Like and share if you did enjoy this video and found it helpful. Dislike the video if you didn't like it and didn't find it helpful. I love you and leave you. I'll see you in the next one. Say it's BLT. Peace out.